And being using the e-portfolio, and also adding in the reflection elements in the teaching and learning in the portfolio, that's added some that it can encourage active inquiry, that it can integrate the learning, because the students throughout the process continuing reflecting on the learning process itself, they can integrate what they have learned and discover meaning and relevance and acquire voice and authority, increase self-directness, and connect it with the world. So that is the adding and reflection element. Though in some of the people's definition of portfolio does not necessarily include the reflection part, though I see many definitions also include that reflection part. But I emphasize that the reflection part, at least to me, I think is a very valuable component. And I will show you some of the reflections of my students that the kind of reflection they have undergone after they have completed the portfolio. So you can see that how students see the learning process itself. And the additional advantages of using portfolio I've put down here is accessibility. It could be accessible to everyone, much more accessible. The students can take it to everywhere whenever it's connected to the internet. It can be shown to people. Durability and interconnectivity, that is about the content of the portfolio. It could be interconnected. And the interactivity, that is how the portfolio could be allowing the student, teachers, and also even other reviewers or even employers of the student to be interact with the student through a kind of electronic platform. And so that's the whole idea about Web 2.0 supporting a portfolio. So I will emphasize and I will talk more about using the portfolio as an assessment tool, and in addition to being a teaching and learning tool. Now again, this is the alignment concept that if you want the students to have a deep approach of learning, so you have to use a particular method that will encourage, or in some cases may force the student to use, whether it's there's some kind of paradox here. Can you force people to adopt a deep learning? I don't know, but just that I think that, or at least from my experience, that the learning e-portfolio could be a method that at least could encourage students to use a deep approach of learning. But at the same time, you need to ensure the student will be able to achieve what you aim at. So you use the e-portfolio as a form of assessment. So that is again I think Diane mentioned about the T5 thing. Actually, it's very kind of similar to here, that is aligning the assessment, the tool you use to teach and learn, and also the goals. What's the learning goals or the outcomes that you want the students to achieve? Now, I will just quickly share about how I use e-portfolio. I use the e-portfolio to support and assess research activities of students. In a lot of my courses, that's a research component. So that's part of the assessment. So students are required to conduct research. And the research include, they have to find in the internet to bookmark some useful sites. They have to go to a library to find relevant materials to build a bibliography. And also they are required to write the learning reflection. And these are the courses. That's the 5 courses. I don't think I have time to go through the different courses I've mentioned. There are different levels of courses that have used it. And the assessment could be of 2 different purposes. One is a substantial, that is whether the product, the research product, how much they have learned from that. But also we wanted to use it as an evidence of research. Now I have to skip all these principles of assessments, and I think you will not mind, but I think you would like to see is more the students' reflections. Now that is the student reflection, that how they see learning using the e-portfolio. So one student here talked about the e-portfolio allows you to do all the research to a large assignment. And it forces you, I think the student also agreed, it forces you to categorize. And just not to have just a lot of things loaded together. It's a good form of assessment because it really shows how much research and time a student has or has put into assignment. Another, this one I think is too long, so it's easier to to read one. Searching websites and adding comments could broaden our vision, allow me to reevaluate, rethink my attitude towards the subject, and it's a good record of assessment, effective and immediate. So it is all students' comments. It's a kind of self-motivated learning that enables me to choose a topic which interests me. So again, you see the students playing a much more active role as evidenced by the comments of the students. This is another student's comment. This is a useful tool to collect information, and also description help me to refresh my memory and in my research. Now, just quickly to end the presentation, I just want to share about the students' response to using ePortfolio. At the end of each course, I ask the students how do they agree with the method. Is it a good form of assessment? Now you find that a lot of students take a kind of neutral position, in one of the courses, the students tend to be much more positive. Now, my analysis, now you can see one of the courses that the students are quite negative, the CLHK, that's the constitutional law of Hong Kong. And from my review, that I find that the reason why, one of the explanations is that the weighting of the assessment, that in the CLHK course, I only assigned 10% of the over-assessment. And in the LGS course, that actually is 30%. And a comment from the students is that they have put in so much time in building their e-portfolios, but it only counts for 10%. So they do not find that a very effective method, or at least they do not find it worthwhile to put so much time in it. So they agree that it's a very good way of learning, but that's a mistake I have learned, is that if you use ePortfolio, you force them to use an active approach in learning, you have to reward them for doing so. They find it worthwhile doing so. Now, another course is LMSF. That is a course that I co-teach with 2 other teachers. It's called Love, Marriage, Sex, and Family. That's for non-law major students. Again, I find that the less positive is because the other 2 teachers are not so committed of using ePortfolios. And so they may not be able to respond to the students so much, and so kind of direct to or effective in responding to the students. So that again may kind of explain, though it may not kind of explain all the things why the students will have different attitudes towards using portfolio in assessment. But I think that's some of the things that some kind of lessons that I've learned, is that you have to set the purpose very clearly, provide clear guidelines to students, and provide some samples for the students so they know what they're going to do to help them to have a start. And you have to give a substantial weighting to the students to reward the students for the work they have done. And you have to have a good combination with other assessment methods and providing good feedback. But one very thing that I have to warn all teachers, if you want to use ePortfolio, you have to prepare to put in more time, because grading an ePortfolio requires you much more time than grading just a kind of an assignment, a written assignment of 3,000 words. You require to much more, especially that the learning curve may be quite steep for some people. If you are collaborating in using portfolio in teaching with other teachers, you have to prepare that your partners, that they may not be able to kind of adjust to the workload. So you have to warn them about the workload involved in using ePortfolio. So thank you.